Well, we must move ahead. And today we're going to Asia in our next two presentations. The Asia Evangelical Alliance has been taking steps forward very purposefully to expand what they're doing with research and how valuable it can be in serving them. Boloroo Damdinjav became a Christian in 1993 when she was a university student. In 1998, she started serving with the Mongolia Mission Center, a YWAM-affiliated ministry, as a school leader and then as an executive director for a total of 17 years. In 2015 and 16, Boloroo did her graduate studies in intercultural studies at Wheaton College in Illinois, USA, and then returned to Mongolia in 2017. Since 2018, she has been serving the Mongolian Evangelical Alliance as a head of the research department, and most recently, she is serving as a director of Study and Research Commission of the AEA until 2028 is her position, and she is a member of the global research team of One Challenge International as well. Well, we look forward, Boloroo, to hearing what the Lord has been doing and what you have been doing with the Asia Evangelical Alliance there in Mongolia.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Greetings to you from Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. I live in the capital city. So today I would like to talk to you more about how we are doing here in Mongolia in terms of research ministry. So my interest in research actually began during my studies at Wheaton, and then also in the summer when I went to Indonesia for the Lausanne Younger Leaders Gathering. I took Larry Kraft's workshop on church research, and that workshop really motivated me in research ministry because my ministry background, was to do with missions. For 17 years, I always wondered how we can enhance missions ministry in Mongolia in terms of church planting, cross-cultural missions, and so I'm involved in all parts of that ministry. And so I always wondered something was missing. And so when I was listening to Larry Kraft's workshop presentation, I discovered that actually the missing part was there. So since that time, I got much interest in church research. And graciously, One Challenge offered me an opportunity to do my internship at their office. So I ended up doing my internship for half a year. And Warren Lawrence and Russ Mitchell, they coached me and mentored me during that time. And so while I was doing my internship, I received a message from the Mongolian Evangelical Alliance, and they asked me to help them to do the church research because I needed to evaluate their goal they had set up in 2007. And so that's why, so they needed to evaluate the goal for they had set up for 2020. And so that's how my research ministry started. Yeah. So I would like to share, so that you can show my presentation. So first, 3 parts of the slides are to do with my context, our context in Mongolia, and so just would like to introduce you some of the facts of our country, and it will help you to understand our background, and then I'll move on to the church research, etc. So can you show my presentation? I cannot see it. I think I send it to.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get that right up here.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so I can continue to work on. So actually, I'm a new researcher. So started, the real work in 2019, and so since then I've been mainly involved with the research ministry of the Mongolian Evangelical Alliance, and just starting from last year, I've been working with the Asia Evangelical Alliance as well. Okay, so next slide, please. So I just would like to give you some introduction about Mongolia, and it will help you to understand our background and context. So many of you know that Mongolia is located in between Russia and China, and our population is 3.5 million. And globally, actually, there are about 10 million people of Mongolian ethnicity, so more Mongolians live outside Mongolia, actually. According to the 2024 census, the country has about 60 million livestock. So usually, every year, our National Research Institute gives us information about population and also livestock. So livestock is very important in our country. So that's why every year they take census of our livestock. So mainly, basically, we've been talking about horses, sheep, goats, camels, and cows. So just for your interest, just wanted to mention that. And life is sparsely populated in Mongolia, and recently it increasingly urbanized, and nearly half of the population resides just in the capital city, and then the rest of the population kind of scatter rest of other parts of the country. And approximately 94% of the population speaks the Mongolian language. So so most people speak the same language, although we have a few people groups that they have dialects, but we can still understand them. And adult literacy rate stands at 99%. And so literacy rate is pretty high, and almost everybody, anyone can read and write. So that helps us to do research in our research ministry. And specifically, especially during the communism, the literacy rate went really, really high because our government really wanted to make sure that everybody can write and read, and so that's one of the good part that actually communism actually gave us. That's all. Before that, the literacy rate was not very high. So there are a total of 1.3 million children under age of 17, making up 36.2% of the population. So that means there are a lot of children, a lot of children in the country. So almost a little more than 1/3 of the population is under age 17. So if you come to Mongolia, so you would see a lot of children and youth. And so this is this is the area that we really want to focus on and disciple. Yeah. Okay, please, next slide. So in terms of ethnic groups in Mongolia, 84.5% of the population are Khalq Mongols. And so there are very few minority people groups, but nowadays we hardly don't distinguish them, and even though they have slightly different accents, but we can still understand them. And 4% of the population are Kazakhs, and a few years back they immigrated to Mongolia, and they mostly reside in the west part of the country, and they speak Kazakh language. And so in order to communicate with them, we have to know their language. Even though they've been living in Mongolia since maybe 1950s, but still many of them, they don't speak Khalkh language. And so, but anyway, but most of the population speak in Khalkh language. That also helps us to interact people more easily. Okay, next slide, please. In terms of religion in Mongolia, perhaps some of you may know that Mongolia was a Buddhist country. It was heavily influenced by Tibetan Buddhism for 300 years before the communists took over the country. So during the communism, Tibetan Buddhism went underground, and when the communism fell in 1990, a lot of people actually went back to Buddhism. So Mongolia is one of the 6 Tibetan Buddhist countries in the world. And so majority people would say they're Buddhists in terms of religion, and so very few Muslims. And also we have shamanists, and then Christianity. According to 2010 census, they say 2.2% of the Mongolian population are Christians. So when they took this census in 2010, they literally visited every single family of Mongolia and then asked their religious status. And so when they say Christian, so for them, like anyone who claim themselves Christian can be included in this category. For example, like Mormons, Catholic Church people, or Catholics, or Orthodox. And so anyone who say, oh, I'm a Christian, they included in this category. And so when they took census in 2020 and the number went down, and so currently we say that perhaps maybe 2% of the population, they are Christians, but evangelicals are maybe 1.5%. So that's the estimation. And so the others are, and then we have other religious groups, and then also we have non-religious people, because Mongolia was a communist country, and some of them they say they are atheists, and then they don't practice any religion. Yeah, so that's how we are. Okay, and then so Mongolian Evangelical Alliance. So we have taken several researches. In 2015, they had the very first research, and they counted the churches, evangelical churches, and they wanted to find out where they are and how many of us are, and how we are in terms of denominations, and how church leaders are doing, etc. And so in 2020, I worked on this project. And so our goal was, as I say, to evaluate their goal they had set up for 2020. And so basically it's about hoping to see 20%, 10% of the Mongolian population be Christians by 2020. And so that's why I had to do the research and find out how we are in terms of this goal. But because of my graduate studies research proposal, I also added questions related to church planting and also discipleship, because church planting was much interest, my interest, and also, of course, all the church leaders' interest. So I included a lot of questionnaire in it, and also interviewed some church planters who are serving in rural areas. And so both qualitative and quantitative research was done in 2020. And so, and currently we are working on Mongolian Church State Research 2025. And so in a month, we are hoping to finish and close the survey, and then finish the report, and so finalize it. And then so this year, we will have the report. And so that's, I mean, currently I've been working on that, and so far we've collected survey from 470 churches. Okay, so just briefly to talk about the survey projects we have done. And Mongolian churches are still very young. As I said, our country was a communist country after Russia, and when in 1990, when we had democracy in the country, and that's when missionaries started coming to Mongolia, and the very first evangelical church, the modern evangelical church, was founded in 1991, actually in 1991, and so we have 34 years of modern church history. And as you look back on Mongolian history, during the Great Mongolian Empire, like in 13th century, there were a few Christians in Mongolia. That's the history book says. And Nestorian missionaries came to the country, and during that time in the 13th century, and because many of them were professional missionaries, they ended up serving in king's courts. And so when the Great Mongolian Empire collapsed or declined, so Christianity also declined. And then so for hundreds of years, maybe 700 years, and there was not any single Christian. And then so finally, yes, God opened the door in our country 34 years ago, and the very first church was founded in 1991. And so since then, so that's our church growth. And this is the report from the 2020 church survey. And so I'm really looking forward how it has changed since 2020. And of course, many people, especially many church leaders, are wondering how Mongolian churches are doing after COVID now, and how many of them closed down, how many new churches have been planted, and how we're doing in terms of discipleship in church planting. And so that's why we've been working on the survey. So next slide, please. So on the basis of our data in 2020 research, also we did several mappings. So this is the very very simple map. And so I have to thank some people for helping me also for doing that. And Loring also helped me. He worked with the Global Mapping International, right? So he also helped me to understand the mapping program. But anyway, so together we created the map. Several maps. So this is just the simplest one. For the security reason, also we just put it like published it in our report, and so we use other maps when we just talk about more details. And yeah. So basically, like in Mongolia, we have 330 counties and 21 provinces and 3 cities. So although we have very few population, 3.5 million population, but we are divided into 330 counties. So each county we have maybe average 2,500 to 5,000 population average. And so our hope and all of our Mongolian Evangelical Alliance, and also as well as all churches' hope is we want to see a church at least every county of Mongolia, and also we want to see a church in every subdivision of the of Ulaanbaatar. And yeah, so we want to see church everywhere. And so this map kind of shows where the missing, parts is. And then so this actually really helped to motivate a lot of church leaders. And because of the map, the visual, map, many of them are targeting on the areas where there is no church. So since 2020, a lot of church planting efforts have been taking place. A lot of church planting related ministries also have been taking place. And so because we want to bring church closer to our population. And So that's why we've been really targeting on this. And according to our survey in 2020, we learned that out of 330 counties, 172 counties do not have any single church. So, so we would like to, so all our churches are really targeting on 172 counties of Mongolia. And then, of course, also we have to strengthen the existing churches and to make sure they are discipling Christians. And so as you look at the map, it's just kind of interesting, there are a lot of observations actually we can make. And some part of the province, they have very few churches in terms of, and they have huge land, but very few churches. And so we ask why. Why some provinces have very few churches, but why some provinces have quite many churches, So we've been asking a lot of questions, trying to understand so why it's happening. And so anyway, so this map really motivates people, and I've been still using it. And then so soon, in a few weeks, we will create another map and then want to compare it. Okay, the next slide, please. Next one, yes. So on the base of this map, also report in 2020, we also calculated how many churches we would need if we want to have a church among 1,000 population. And so these are the numbers we've got, so since half of the population in Mongolia reside just in the capital city, we still need more churches, even though there are a lot of hundreds of churches in the capital city, but we still need more churches in the capital city because half of the population is there for a lot of different reasons. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why. Half of the population are squeezed in just in a small, the capital city. And even though we have so much land in the country, why we are, why it's happening. And so there are a lot of reasons, and because of work opportunities, because of schools, education, and most of the universities are just in the capital city. Most of the work opportunities are in the capital city. So youth are very much attracted in the capital city. So that's why a lot of youth are mostly living in the capital city. So when I take survey, especially from the churches in the countryside, the counties or provinces, I noticed that the youth whose ages are 19 to 24 are missing. And they say we don't have youth, of this age here, and because they are college students, universities, all went to the capital city, or maybe a few province centers. And so the churches, churches in the counties, or I would say all villages, mostly they have the children or older people, or mostly, and so the churches are not really, big in terms of numbers, but there are very faithful church leaders who are still meeting weekly and then still discipling their people. And so, but anyway, so there are a lot of different churches, and in terms of denomination, also we have different big denominational groups. But although we have our churches are from different denominations, but most churches, I would say 90% of the evangelical churches in Mongolia are united under Mongolian Evangelical Alliance. Mm-hmm. And so, so most churches are the members of Mongolian Evangelical Alliance. And also there are a lot of reasons behind that. And why, although the churches are from different denominations, mostly Presbyterian, Methodists, Lutheran, Baptists, Wesleyans, and Assembly of God, and Pentecosts, and Christian Missionary Alliance. And so we have different groups, but yet most of them, 90%, I would say, are the members of Mongolian Evangelical Alliance. And of course, we have different opinions, but yet, so we are coming under one umbrella, and which also helps us to to understand the Christian state, status of our country. Yeah. And also we need this many churches in the rest of the country. Okay, so I'm finishing soon. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so, okay, in order to reach this goal, also Mongolian Evangelical Alliance, we have this goal that's set up for 28 because we want to multiply. We want to see the multiplication, double force. And so we are encouraging every church to plant a church, every leader to also mentor another leader, and every disciple to mentor another disciple. And so in 3 years, we want to see double force portion of our congregation, also church believers. So this is the goal. And then so intentionally in every monthly calendar, we put all the events that relate to church planting and discipleship, because we want to boost church planting and discipleship. So that's why intentionally we mark these events on the calendar, and then we distribute the yearly calendars to every members, Evangelical Alliance members, and so that we can all move together. Okay, and then I think next one, I think it's done. Okay, so how do we collect data? So we take online survey, and then also, some people prefer to fill it out on paper form, and they do that. Yes, and then this is the paper form, the picture of the paper form, just first page, just to give you an idea how we take that. And then also over the phone, phone calls, and some people cannot maybe get the paper form, cannot fill out the survey online, and so that's why. So for such people, I call, and so that's we collect data. And I'm learning that the trust relationship is the key in collecting data. And so, okay, anyway, I have to finish. My minute is over. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Boloroo. That is a great look into how public census data from the government, church data, it can really provide insights into each of our countries and its resources and its needs. I hope many of us are inspired by what you have been doing, have been able to do with looking at the country carefully and gathering data.